So, Mark, did you see all of those people visiting Las Vegas, passing by the envelope, not taking it? What's wrong with them?
Have we learned nothing in 2026? Like if somebody's walking around filming and they have things in their hands trying to get out, it's usually something really good that you should probably grab. I don't know. Wouldn't you grab it?
I mean, you're in Vegas, you're living your best life. Why wouldn't you grab it?
Exactly. We had a chance to see Ed Sheeran. He came to Ford Field and I asked my daughter, like, hey, do you want to go? Who's Ed Sheeran? I don't really care. I don't like him. And then I proceeded to play her like 10 of his biggest hits and she loved all those songs. So she regretted it instantly.
As did all of these people who walked right by that envelope. So one of the themes of this show is the North Strip and saving the North Strip, how it's been needing of saving for a very long time at this point. And one of the little quirks of the North Strip is some of the condo towers like Sky Las Vegas. And there's been a retail space in there. It used to be a CVS. I think it closed in 2017, but it's been largely empty since then. And it just went into foreclosure and it sold for $13.5 million. The new owner says he wants to bring budget eats to the Las Vegas Strip. But what's more painful is this sold back in 2014 for $33 million, Mark. So a huge loss on that, but maybe a new food hall coming to the Strip.
Yeah, sounds like you got a great deal. And I mean, the North Strip is probably better than it was back then. So an insane deal. And the craziest thing of this, I think, is CVS has been paying rent this entire time and is paying it, what, another 2-3 years?
Yeah, that's the interesting part of the story. He won't build anything there until the lease is over for CVS. So I mean, this is a very challenged location, I would say, because not a lot of foot traffic on that side of the Strip. You have the festival grounds. So maybe when there's events there, it's pretty good. But even CVS doesn't want it. So, I mean, does it mean that it's going to do well for others? I don't know. But I guess good to see something new coming there.
I could see people, I mean, Fontainebleau, we've talked about how the food prices there are pretty high. It's all more high end stuff. So if you had affordable heats, I think quite a few people staying there would walk across the street and check it out. But I would have thought that CVS, once that got built, if it was still there, would have done fairly well for the same reasons.
For all those people who love to hate on CVS and Walgreens, they passed on something, right? They're not everywhere. There was actually a location that they didn't want. So let's move on to this crazy story with Jared Griener or Griener. I don't know him, but he played in the World Series of Poker. I guess he's a big poker player. And he posted on X about a home invasion. He got home from cashing in all his winnings at the tournament or back to his Airbnb, opens the door, and there's two guys waiting for him. A pretty scary story.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy when you're playing a public event like this and everybody knows who won money and who got payout. And if they kind of can figure out where you're going, like maybe it's better to stay in a property that you can get security to walk you to your room. I don't know. I wouldn't think people would know where my Airbnb was, but this is kind of scary. And then you think about it and you're like, okay, I could see how this could happen.
Yeah, it's a wild story. He claims that they knew the code to the Airbnb and so that they sort of were watching him or something like that. Some people online saying that the story is a bit over the top, especially when you see that Ring camera footage with his hand half tied and all this. He went to a neighbor's house and asked them to call the police, but they did call the police. It's been all over the media. It's being investigated. I think he had $57,000 on him.
What if this is just he owed money to the mob?
A tale as old as time, but nothing to look. I mean, this is be a horrifying thing to happen, and I'm really sorry that happened to him.
Yeah, I'm glad he came out okay and isn't injured or anything along those lines. So losing the money sucks, but nothing's more important than your health.
Next up, our favorite gambler, Matthew Boyer, the guy behind so many interesting stories over the last few years in Vegas, Resorts World, and all of the AML, Atani's translator, and all of that good stuff. And we talked about Bill Krakenberger interviewing him, but he's been making the rounds, and you found this clip that you wanted to talk about.
Yeah, there was a couple interesting things that I had heard that he talked about, and one of them was he won like $2 million on the Tampa Bay beating the Kansas City Chiefs Super Bowl, but he checked out. I think he won it at like the Palazzo, but he checked out because he knew that they wouldn't give him any discounts or rebates on his losses if he was there because they knew he was up $2 million. So that's the first time he went over to Resorts World. He negotiated all these terms, getting 15% back of losses or something like that, which I thought was kind of smart. And then he said that was the best. He stayed in a ton of villas, suites, all the stuff, and Resorts World had the best villas of anyone in Vegas, which I found kind of interesting.
Yeah, those villas are cool. They're on display, as you always like to talk about those. I mean, Boyer, this is a podcast for problem gambling, and he never comes across as apologetic to me in any of it. Or, I mean, not apologetic or just remorseful, I guess.
Well, yeah, I mean, he's making his money off of other gamblers because he was a illegal bookie. So I, I don't know if you can be like like you're making money off of others and then you're losing it to casinos. It was kind of a crazy story, and he kind of held his own for a decade or so in Vegas. But for whatever reason, he had a great time at Resorts World. He took that $2 million, lost like 800,000 there, somewhere along those lines, but had a great time and just kept going back. And he said over the next 13 months he lost like $13 million and just could never win. And I find it like, I feel like every gambler knows that there's like certain properties out there for whatever reason, the math doesn't check out, the numbers don't work, but you just can't win there. The other interesting thing that he had done, and I don't know that anybody else has done this before or maybe even after, but he had negotiated his wife be his host. So every time he would go to Resorts World, they would cap out, like they gave him a percent back up to $30,000. And he gambled so big that she would get paid $30,000 every time he walked in the door. And then he was still getting these rebates and things off his losses. And even with that, you think that that would flip the advantage to your side, or at least make it pretty close to even. He still lost that $13 million.
It's a sick disease, but he seems like he's telling war stories and he's so proud of all of it. I don't know, he convicted, obviously, so he can come out and just talk about all of his escapades and stuff like that without any repercussions for it. But he's so conceited with what he did and all the people he brought down. And even in this, he's talking about his problem gambling, and it just seems like he's proud of all of it.
I will say I listened to a couple other episodes on that channel. I'd never seen it before, but I think it's a bigger name out there. And they talk about not just problem gambling, but all like types of addictions. And there was some stories out there from other gamblers that you're like, okay, that's rough. And they're really sharing, and they are remorseful and how much they destroyed their family and everything. And if you're going through something similar, I think it's kind of helpful to hear other stories and remind you what the dark side of all of this is. So definitely check it out if you haven't.
Yeah, we'll put a link down to them in the description. In a second, we're going to talk about the Mad Hatter Tea Party coming back to Las Vegas. But before we do that, I would love to invite you to subscribe on our road to 100K, our very slow, low speed limit road that we're on. Thanks in advance.
15-year trudge.
But let's talk food and tea parties and all of that. But starting with the $3.99 sliders at Casino Royale. Now, I did notice these the last time I was in there, and I think they're relatively new. But I saw Marco Murillo. He's doing a lot of great work on social media. He posted these as new. So I don't know how new they are, but $3.99 sliders to go along with the $3.99 hot dog at Casino Royale. And we just talked about cheap eats on the Strip. Here you go.
Yeah, and then you can go sit in the Best Western check-in area and eat them. Sean's favorite place to hang out.
Well, what's worse is this an upgrade from the White Castle sliders? Obviously, this is in response to the White Castle going away. So as long as they keep the tradition of sending you to the bathroom, I think it's all good.
Yeah, there you go. As long as they get them clean, you're good to go. But no, we talk about how much we love Casino Royale and how it's like old school Vegas. And I'm glad to see that they're kind of keeping in touch with what they've offered. And if you're walking that area of the Strip, there's other cheap eat options in there. So it's always worth going back there, sit at the bar, have a beer, some great bartenders, hang out for a minute, then go on your way.
Well, let's talk Peacock Alley. That is the tea venue over at Waldorf Astoria, and they are bringing back their Mad Hatter Tea Party for 2026. I think this debuted last year. We definitely talked about it. It's going to be August 26th to the 30th, $74, and they describe it as tumble into a world where afternoon tea is anything but ordinary, featuring storybook-inspired pastries, savory craft bites, and whimsical teas and cocktails served above the Las Vegas Strip. This looks great. The videos from last year, we talk about the tea that they do over at Circa. They do that fancy dress-up tea. These are the two that I think are worthy, but that spot is great for tea on any day. I will say that.
Yeah, you have beautiful views, kind of a cool look at the Strip that you don't get anywhere else, really, because it's middle of the building instead of being at the top. And we love that space. We love the Waldorf. They've done a really beautiful job over there. And they needed to take a better promo picture, though. When you look at this, you see like 4 little cake bite things and a cup of tea, and you're like, $74 for that? But when you see the videos, there's definitely more involved with it. And I think a lot of people do enjoy the experience. I'm surprised they don't do it for a longer period.
Yeah, it's just for that 1 week, I guess, maybe bringing in the stuff. But you would think that maybe this would be an ongoing sort of thing. But it is great. We talk about spectacle, dressing up. Everybody loves to dress up. As I say, sometimes with expensive things, I can think of worse ways to spend $74, even though it's not cheap.
But I'm with Ted Lasso on this one. It just tastes like hot brown water.
Well, let's stay on the food thing and the nostalgia thing, which we love. I got this email from Kristen, and all it said was Old Vegas. And it's this menu of this prefix dinner and a show at the Planet Hollywood restaurant at the Forum Shops. I don't know what year. She didn't say what year, but, fairly modern, I guess. $20, though, all in. You get your choice of the entree. There's also dessert, also includes drinks. And then it doesn't say what show you get, but $20 all in. Those were the days.
It's probably like a magician show. Remember those when you were growing up, where you go to a Friday night dinner, bring your kids, and the magician walks around for a couple hours and does tricks. It was always fun, and this is such an amazing deal. And I always had a really good time in Planet Hollywood. I'm sad that it's gone. But yeah, this just kind of shows what you could get back in the day.
And staying on nostalgia, the Ultimate 2001 Strip Tour. This made the rounds on X. I don't know who I saw it from first. It was posted a couple years ago, so it's not brand new here on YouTube. But this is a 1 hour and 10-minute drive down the Las Vegas Strip in the summer of 2001, which is a very interesting time because in this video, you can see the transition of the Strip. A lot of the old motels are still there. A lot of the smaller businesses that have now been sucked into the larger properties are still there. But this guy goes on for the entire 1 hour and 10 minutes. He was a vlogger before vloggers existed. He's giving context. He's talking constantly, the history. It's very interesting. At the time, the Desert Inn was about to be imploded, and he thought that they were building the new Desert Inn, so we didn't know it was going to be the Wynn. There's a lot of other interesting aspects here, but he talks constantly, even 25 years ago, about how the Strip is less glittery.
Yeah, and there was even a cameo of the last gas station on the Strip in the video, even though it was closed already then, going to be knocked down and something else built on it. But it was cool throwback to see, and just driving around. I know we talked about this a bit on the after show, but I really like this version of Las Vegas better probably. And just because it gives you like the depth and the scope of the properties, they're not all right on top of each other. It's not built out to the street. You can kind of like, you're more in awe of it. Even just going by Caesars, like it just seems so much grander, and you see all the details a bit better versus everything else that they've thrown up now with the new nightclub and just the other pieces that they've put together up near the Strip. It kind of takes away from the beauty that is Caesars. And that goes for everything else. Like there's not another building crammed right on top of some of these, and everything set back off of the street. So you kind of get just a different sense of it. And I really miss those times. I mean, first time I came was like 2008. So a little bit after this generation, they started to build up a couple more things, but you still had that grandeur when you drove down.
Yeah, there was so much interesting there. I lived in Las Vegas. I got married that year at the Little Church of the West, the famous church where Elvis also didn't get married. But so I knew this Strip. I experienced the Strip, but you really don't realize how much has changed, everything that's sort of in transition at this period of time. I thought it was interesting, the festival grounds on Sahara and Las Vegas Boulevard, how there's no fence there or anything. It's just a dirt lot. And on the Strip, we don't really see that much anymore. There's the streets where Link Promenade and the park turned into those areas where they filled in those areas. In fact, I forgot about the Caros that was right next to New York, where the park is right now. And that's sort of the story here, how they filled it all in. Of course, there's still stuff that looks the same as it does today. What's interesting too, Mark, in 2001, Bally's had just installed their big screens for the first time and replacing their old sign. And then here we are today with that big horseshoe screen. And I thought that was interesting as well.
Bring back Bally's.
just instantly the old he doesn't have anything
and Sean
else.
knows I still call it Bally's half the time. We have to re-record it.
And you got the Aladdin just shortly after it opened. That's now the Planet Hollywood, but with the Aladdin sort of architecture, and that always failed from the very beginning. And that's kind of interesting too, because he talks a lot about, Aladdin versus Paris. These are newer properties, and Paris was always a beloved property from the very beginning.
Yeah, I think they really knocked it out of the park with Paris, just the design, the aesthetic, and the way you feel when you go in there. And I love Planet Hollywood now. I never got to see it as Aladdin, so I can't really comment on if it just felt different in there. But I always have had a good time in Planet Hollywood. But I could see how it maybe didn't quite fit, or they didn't pull it off all the way.
Yeah, a lot of mentions of Park Place, who owned a lot of the Strip that turned into eventually to Caesars, and MGM and the duopoly, and who owns this and that. So some things have changed, some things haven't, and I highly recommend this video. Speed it up a little bit if you want to make it go a little faster, but I just wish that there was more dynamic range on his cameras. Sometimes the lights would get all blown out. Other than that, truly great thing for 2001.
Yeah, and kudos to the driver for driving the whole time.
Putting up with all that talking. It's not too late to save with Las Vegas Advisor. You can save hundreds around town, gaming, dining, hotels. Use code MTM to save an additional 10%. It's only $45 for your membership book for new customers. Link down in the description.
Yeah, I noticed somebody commented on a video a week or two ago that they used 2 of the things already and saved $50 on their trip, so it's already paid for itself.
Well, Mark, we have to talk pizza. Our friend Dave sent us over these pizza rankings. So apparently, Wanderlog, this Vegas food community, they went out and they looked at all these different reviews, all the different review sites, and they compiled their definitive list of pizza rankings in Las Vegas. It just so happens the top 7 in that list we did in our pizza video for people who want to refer back to that. But I have some things to say. I think the rankings are okay, Mark, but I have a big problem with number 3.
I'm going to applaud us for picking the right 7 to go to in one day. And we did all of this in one day. And yes, we cut it up with a knife and a plastic knife, and it looked terrible. But it was a lot of pizza to down. So I think that we have a unique perspective that we did these one after another, plus a couple other places, but one after another. And we just kind of went right through them. So that gives us, it's different when you try this pizza and then 3 months later you go to this pizza place, and then a year later you go. So I think that we have a unique say in this.
Yeah, I can speak to all 7 of those from the same day, and there's no way. I mean, there is just no way Evel Pie, belongs on any list that's the top of anything. I don't understand. It's like I'm living in Bizarro world here. Come on, people, you're killing me.
Okay, like I'll give, and maybe this is all in like the atmosphere, the environment, the beer. Like if there was one pizza place I was going to hang out at for a couple hours and just drink some beer and have some fun, Evel Pie would be number 1. So I could see why it would be on this list and even in like the top 5 or 10. I just don't think it would be 3 if we're talking about just pizza. But if they're taking in reviews, then people are talking about everything and not just the pizza.
Can we also talk about how the 3 locations are all downtown, the top 3 pizzas? I don't know. That's a little weird to me. Pizza Rock is definitely not the best pizza in Las Vegas, but it's good. I like it a lot. Yeah, just check out Double Zero and that Red Dwarf. Can we endorse Red Dwarf again? We've been multiple times, had that sauce. That Detroit style pizza is out of this world. It really is. It's incredible.
Yeah, I would probably move Red Dwarf into either a tie for first or into first. After they changed the ovens at Double Zero, it's just not quite as good. It doesn't have that same flavor or texture. So I dropped that down a little bit. I don't mind Pizza Rock being number 1. I think it's a really good pizza. A lot of people put it as their favorite Vegas pizza place. So having that anywhere in like the top 3 or 4 is not a problem in my book. But yeah, Red Dwarf is probably the biggest slide here.
And just as a reminder, we picked Good Pie downtown over Pizza Rock, but I agree, Pizza Rock, pretty good. I mean, no complaints there.
Yeah, and I mean, if we're talking about vibes, and that's why I think Evel Pie gets such a high regard, and it's well known, the location's easy to get to, easy to access. But Red Dwarf is that other place that I would go hang out at a lot because just the vibe's really cool. I mean, it's a little bit darker. It's a tiki-esque type of vibe, but more like punk rock tiki, which is unique. And you have to be okay with that to go when you go in there. But I think it's a really cool place to hang out at.
And let's close with this. The LVCVA impact report came back for 2025. And this is what the LVCVA does to show all the numbers of the impact of the tourism industry in Southern Nevada. And this was put together by Jeremy Aguero, who we've talked about before. So take all of this with a grain of salt. But he is the guy that the city goes to get their numbers out there. And I thought that this one slide, I'll put a link in the description. People can go through the whole thing. I just thought I'd cherry pick a few things. But they have the slide with the Las Vegas visitor spending. And you can see it by year. And it's so interesting to see 19, 20, 21, and then see where we're at now, which just confirms how much more expensive Las Vegas is compared to before the pandemic.
Yeah, and I mean, it's down from 24 to 25, but 24 was the peak, and it's kind of right in line with 23, a little bit below that. But I mean, we are seeing it slow down, and 2023 to 2024 was just a crazy time in Las Vegas and the buildup. And I think people were still having that FOMO or throw money out there. Who cares? We got out of COVID. I want to just have fun. And now I think those bills are starting to come due a bit, or people are starting to realize, hey, maybe I shouldn't be blowing money the way I was, and everything else has gotten more expensive too. So your everyday life is taking away from your budget to go to Las Vegas or elsewhere. So I could see why it would start to dip back a bit.
And this doesn't mean that the profits are there either. You know, the higher operating costs, inflation has been a huge impact. That new culinary contract a couple years ago has had a huge impact. And we talked about with the last round of numbers, right, how the Strip didn't make as much profit as what the Boulder Strip, right, made more money with like a fraction of the gaming revenue. So more money, more spend does not necessarily mean more profits for Las Vegas, but it is costing more. And it's interesting to see that line of 2020 in the sand and how everything jumped up like we've seen with everything else. But here's the total economic impacts. I like this. I don't know what he does to come up with these numbers. It's some voodoo magic, but he claims
He
that
goes Fugazi, and then mix it up.
and then 382,320 jobs were created. 22.1 billion in wages and 80.9 billion in economic output total. That's direct and non-direct impact on the Las Vegas economy. Obviously a huge thing for Las Vegas, the LVCVA. Some people think they should just get rid of this and these agency and take the tourism taxes and put it towards something else. I think they do a really good job of promoting the city, even though I'll criticize them here from time to time and the F1 and some of that sort of stuff that went down. But overall, when you see those iconic commercials and you go somewhere else and you see Las Vegas advertised, they're the ones that are doing it, one influencer at a time.
Yeah, I think that they do get the message out there. And I mean, they've had some of the best commercials in the history for travel. I mean, think about like Sin City and stuff like that. Like they've created all of those taglines. And the one thing we can all agree on is that it was going up and now it's starting to go down a bit. And we have to see where 2026 lands. Does it continue going the trend downwards or does it kind of level out? And we'll see this time next year.
One last thing I wanted to cover with this, and this comes from LV Sports Biz, who went to the LVCVA meeting. And as he says, hopefully LVCVA CEO Steve Hill can survive on that salary. And it's a slide that shows the salaries of the CEO presidents of different tourism bureaus around the country. And I just all of a sudden found a new profession that I want to be in. I want to run a tourism bureau somewhere. Hill, $813,000. He's only like the fifth highest paid. Look at California Travel and Tourism Commission. I want to apply for that job. Over $2 million a year base salary.
Remember when we were growing up and the saying was like, hey, if you want to make money, you go private. But if you want job security and retirement and pension and all that stuff, you go work for the government. Well, now it's completely flipped. I feel like the government people get paid more than the private people. Plus they get, all the other cushy things that come along with it. Making $800,000 to promote Las Vegas is just insane. I don't understand it.
Well, then go to California, see California and how ridiculous it could be.
Well,
hey,
that gives them like a 1-bedroom condo.
The greater Miami person is getting screwed at $452,000. But yeah, it kind of opened my eyes. And some people say, hey, he's worth every penny for what he does with the LVCVA and what they've done with bringing some of the sports here, all of the events, like the big events like Super Bowl and things like that. That's the LVCVA, the F1, obviously, just wider promoting the city. People would say he's worth his weight in gold and a lot too.
I think the tourists should have the say because they're the ones paying his salary.
Well, I don't know, but interesting takeaways from this. And I didn't know how much he made. Does that surprise you guys out there? Are you surprised to see how much they're making for promoting tourism in Las Vegas? All the wider numbers too. Let us know what you think about that. The economic impact. Does that ring true to you? The increased spending numbers. And then 2001 Las Vegas, that look back, that nostalgia. Do you miss that version of the Strip? And the Abandoned CVS, I guess. Are you excited for Cheap Eats coming? I don't know. Let us know down in the comments. We do a few shows every week, and we'll be back in a few days with another show. Thank you so much for watching. Talk to you next time.
Have a good weekend, everybody. Hopefully Sean doesn't cut it off this time.